All right, so get this. Today we're diving into like one of the biggest mysteries ever, Atlantis. People have been obsessed with this place for centuries. And you guys, our awesome listeners, sent in some wild theories about where it could be.
What gets me about Atlantis is that it's not just some ancient myth, right? We're talking about a story passed down for like forever. The ancient Egyptians talked about it, and even they were impressed. And let me tell you, those guys built some amazing stuff themselves.
That's right. It's like if your grandparents told you a story so real, so vivid, you just can't shake it off. So let's get to it, the possible location. We're doing a deep dive into this episode of Joe Rogan's podcast, and he's got this guest on, and they're talking about something called the Richat Structure. Ring any bells? It's also called the Eye of the Sahara.
Oh, yeah, the Eye of the Sahara. Talk about a sight to see. Picture this. You're in the middle of the Sahara Desert, the biggest, hottest desert on Earth, right? And bam, there's this massive circular formation, like 30 miles across, with these rings, like a bullseye. It's so huge, astronauts use it as a landmark from space.
Wait, astronauts use it as a landmark. Okay, now I'm really interested. I'm starting to see why this guy on Rogan thinks it could be Atlantis. Sounds like something straight out of Indiana Jones. But what's the evidence? What's he connecting to the whole Atlantis legend?
So this guy, he's really going for it. He looks at those rings, the concentric ones, and he's like, boom, this matches what Plato said. Those rings of water and land. He even thinks he sees signs of, like, water erosion on the ridges, which would mean it was underwater at some point.
Hold up, water erosion? In the Sahara Desert, something doesn't add up.
Right. But he's got an answer for everything. He starts talking about these massive salt deposits all over the region. Says that salt wouldn't just be chilling on top of the sand if the ocean hadn't been there somewhat recently. And get this, remember those documentaries about the Green Sahara? He brings that up too. He says science backs it up. That it used to be a total paradise with tons of freshwater lakes and rivers, just like, well, Atlantis.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those documentaries. Makes you realize how much the Earth can change, right? So if this guy's theory holds any water, what happened? How'd it go from paradise to, well, Sahara?
This is where it gets wild. He's linking the city's destruction to get the Younger Dryas impact event.
The Oma?
The Younger Dryas impact. Basically, this crazy period of climate change about 12,000 years ago. Maybe an impact from space, who knows? But guess what that lines up with when Plato said Atlantis went kaput?
Wait, an impact from space? Now that's a twist I didn't see coming. This is getting good. But let's play devil's advocate here for a sec. If this theory is so great, why isn't everyone convinced? Why isn't the Richat Structure like a World Heritage Site or something?
Right, right. Well, here's the thing. Geologists, they've got their own methods for dating rocks. And they're saying this structure is millions of years old. Way too old to be Atlantis.
Millions of years. Okay, then how do they explain those rings and the, the potential water erosion and all that other stuff this guy's talking about?
Well, they're not ignoring those features, not at all. But they see it as like a wind erosion thing. Wind's a powerful force, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the Sahara. They're thinking those ripples and formations, that could be millions of years of wind and sand just carving it out.
Huh. So it's like wind versus water then. Who wins in a battle of the elements, right? But here's something else I've been wondering. If there was a whole city there, wouldn't we have found something by now? Like pieces of pottery or foundations, anything like that?
Yeah, you'd think so, right. That's actually one of the biggest holes in the whole Atlantis and the Sahara theory. There's basically zero archaeological evidence inside the Richat Structure. And we're talking about a whole city, supposedly, right? Yeah. You figure there'd be buildings, tools, everyday stuff. Archaeologists would be all over that.
Yeah, it's not like Atlantis was known for being like minimalist or anything. So what about, just digging, excavating the site?
You'd think, right. But the Sahara, man, it's rough. Huge, hot, always changing. Doing a big dig out there would be crazy expensive and a logistical nightmare.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. But even with all that, it's still kind of cool to imagine, Maybe this Joe Rogan guest is onto something.
It makes me think of something you mentioned before, Randall Carlson. He's big on that whole Younger Dryas impact idea, but he's got a different location in mind for Atlantis, right?
Totally. Carlson, yeah, he's a geologist, and he's done a ton of research on the Younger Dryas impact. He thinks the Azores are a better fit.
The Azores? Hold on, I'm lost. Why the Azores?
So it's all about the geology. Apparently there's evidence that the Azores, those islands way out in the Atlantic, might have been above water during the last ice age, when most of the north was covered in ice.
Right, right.
Carlson's theory is that maybe, just maybe, if Atlantis was real and the sea level started rising really fast, the Azores could have been a place for them to escape to. So even if you believe in this whole lost civilization wiped out by a cataclysmic event thing, people still can't agree on where it was. That's wild.
You got it. It's like we've got this puzzle, but half the pieces are missing, and the other half might be from a totally different puzzle. But hey, that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, I hear you. That's why we do what we do, right? Speaking of mysteries that mess with our whole understanding of history, you mentioned Göbekli Tepe earlier, that site in Turkey. Those structures are crazy old.
For real. Göbekli Tepe is like a giant question mark in our whole timeline of civilization. Those structures, they go back to 10,000 BC, older than the pyramids.
Get out! Older than the pyramids. What were they building stuff like that for back then?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It basically flipped the archaeology world on its head. We thought people back then were just hunters and gatherers, but Göbekli Tepe, it shows they were capable of way more than we thought. Think about it. To build something that complex, they needed serious social skills and architectural knowledge.
It's like finding a smartphone in a medieval castle or something. So how does this connect back to Atlantis?
It's all about perspective. We tend to think of history as this straight line, going from simple to complex. But what if, and this is a big what if, there were civilizations way back when that were way more advanced than we give them credit for? Civilizations that just, poof, disappeared, leaving behind legends and whispers.
Okay, now I've got goosebumps. That's why I love this stuff. Makes you realize how much we don't know, how many secrets are still out there just waiting to be found.
Exactly. And that brings us right back to the Richat Structure.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Atlantis, maybe it's not. But it gets people talking. It makes us want to explore and discover. It reminds us that the Earth has this whole story, and it's way bigger and older than we can even imagine.
I'm all about that. It's not always about finding the answer, it's about staying curious. We got to ask the big questions, even if they sound a little out there. You never know where they might lead.
And you know what? Sometimes the best discoveries come from those out there questions. So to everyone listening, don't be afraid to get a little curious, question what you think you know, and keep searching for those aha moments.
Yes. Now, about those aha moments, there's this whole other mind-blowing thing, geological timescales. As humans, it's hard to wrap our heads around it.
Tell me about it. Millions of years. It's like, how do you
Wow.
even picture that?
Right. And it makes these ancient stories, these hints of lost civilizations, even more incredible. But it also makes you realize our understanding of the past, it's always changing. What we think we know today, well, tomorrow, it could be totally different.
That's the beauty and the curse of this whole thing, right? It's a never-ending puzzle, and some pieces we may never find.
True, but that doesn't mean we stop looking, does it?
Not a chance. Isn't that what makes the journey so exciting?
It really is. It's like we started with this one theory about some weird shape in the desert, and suddenly we're down this rabbit hole of like, what if everything we know is wrong?
It's true, right? And that's what I love about these deep dives we do. We start with one little thing, and it just explodes into this whole discussion about, like you said, geological time, ancient myths, all of it. It makes you wonder what else is out there, hidden under the Sahara. If it really did go from this green paradise to, the Sahara we know, who knows what else is buried there?
They say the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything.
Right.
But that's what's so great about it. This whole thing started with that Richat structure, and now there are like a million possibilities, a million questions we don't have answers to, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's more than okay. It's exciting.
Totally. It's like you mentioned imagination before, right? Even if we never actually find Atlantis, even if it's always a legend, just thinking about it, searching for it, using our imaginations, that's got to count for something.
100%. It's like that old saying, it's about the journey, not the destination. Sometimes the best discoveries are the questions we ask along the way, the what-ifs that make us curious and make us push the boundaries of what we think is possible.
And hey, maybe someone listening right now will be the one to find the next Göbekli Tepe. Or maybe they'll find something even crazier that changes how we see history. Wouldn't that be wild?
Oh, that would be something. That's why I love this stuff, archaeology, geology, all of it.
Yeah.
It's not just some dead subject. It's always changing, always evolving.
I love that. So, to everyone listening, if you're out there searching for Atlantis or any other mystery, keep an open mind, keep asking questions, and don't stop digging for those hidden truths.
Yeah, because sometimes the most amazing discoveries are the ones we least expect.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll be back next time with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to get you thinking. Until then, keep exploring.